hear you guys. Oh boy, here's another NASA video. Why does Richie from Boston stay on NASA? Why do other channels continually expose NASA's very, very easy to see through CGI, green screens, and bullshit stories? Well, there's a reason for it. NASA is one of the biggest lies humanity is facing, and it all leads towards one end. Now, everyone remembers under Obama, we're going to Mars. Mars, 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 Mars. It sounds like the Brady Bunch, doesn't it? Marsha, Marsha, Marsha. Exactly. We're going to Mars. We're going to colonize Mars. We're going to make movies about going to Mars. Mars, Mars, Mars. Don't let it bother you that the picture they show from Mars shows stars, even though in real life, that's not what we get at all. It's actually the exact opposite. Don't let it bother you that the atmosphere on Mars is absolute poison. Don't let it bother you that the Curiosity rover that's allegedly up on Mars is catching wildlife that you would find on the planet Earth in either Greenland or Nova Scotia. Yeah, that's a thing. This is directly from the Curiosity rover. That's a fact. I didn't make this up. This is what they sent back. And it turns out that this is a indigenous animal from the colder regions where they're probably actually filming the Curiosity rover. Now, come on, Richie, there's a Curiosity rover on Mars. They tell us about it all the time. Well, they do tell us about it all the time. But then they tell us the exact and total opposite all the time. Don't believe me? Let's check out ODD TV real quick and see what he's come up with.
NASA claims that we successfully landed man on the moon 6 times between 1969 and 1972. Here we are in 2016, and NASA constantly tells us that we can't go beyond low Earth orbit. Low Earth orbit is between 99 miles and 1,200 miles away. The moon is claimed to be 238,000 miles away. That's a big difference.
NASA's next spacecraft, already being built and tested across America, will do those things and more.
This is the spacecraft that's going to take humans to explore the solar system. It's the next big step for NASA in exploration.
Called the Orion Multipurpose Crew Vehicle, or MPCV, this next-generation spacecraft will enable America to explore beyond low Earth orbit. 2.
As we get further away from Earth, we'll pass through the Van Allen belts, an area of dangerous radiation. But Orion has protection. Shielding will be put to the test as the vehicle cuts through the waves of radiation. Sensors aboard will record radiation levels for scientists to study. We must solve these challenges before we send people through this region of space.
3.
Plan that NASA has is to build a rocket called SLS, which is a heavy lift rocket. It's something that is much bigger than what we have today, and it will be able to launch the Orion capsule with humans on board, as well as landers or other components to destinations beyond Earth orbit. Right now, we only can fly in Earth orbit. That's the farthest that we can go. And this new system that we're building is going to allow us to go beyond and hopefully take humans into the solar system to explore. So the moon, Mars, asteroids, there's a lot of destinations that we could go to, and we're building these building block components in order to allow us to do that eventually.
4.
The kinds of technologies that we're testing out on Space Station are definitely helping us with our goals of going beyond low Earth orbit. So we have a really robust exploration program at NASA.
5.
And unlike the previous program, we are setting a course with specific and achievable milestones. Early in the next decade, a set of crewed flights will test and prove the systems required for exploration beyond low Earth orbit.
So how did we send humans to the moon 6 times so early on, but we can't figure it out in 2016?
Never mind all the obvious green screen glitches that NASA shows us. I mean, come on, really? You don't think NASA noticed things like this? They just don't care. That is not a man in a capsule. That is not, I can't think of it right this second. That isn't transmission problems from the camera. That's a green screen. This isn't real, and it explains how they have the correct jerseys for the NFL Super Bowl, and it also explains why NASA is even involved in it to start with. JMO. The biggest fraud in human history is space, NASA, and the moon landings, and here we go again. We got a new president. We got a new lie from NASA. So forget about the Mars mission where we're going to go colonize Mars, which is just absolutely ludicrous on its face, and yet most people don't even question it. This is a big deal. NASA is like an enormous toilet where all of our money gets flushed down and people don't seem to care. Now, apparently, under President Donald J. Trump, the reality show star, we're going back to the moon all over again. So scrap Mars, back to the moon, even though the moon, in my opinion, after extensive, I'm going to say 4 decades of monitoring the moon, I'm starting to figure out the moon is not something that can be landed on. And with a few practical tests or experiments of your own, you can figure out the same. But I digress. Let's watch this.
The whole galaxy is moving, and we now know more about the invisible force that's pushing us through the cosmos. It turns out something called the dipole repeller is calling the shots, and our galaxy is just along for the ride. As for where we're going, a study published in the journal Nature Astronomy says we're heading for an area in space 750 million light-years away. For a refresher, our solar system is part of the Milky Way galaxy. The whole thing is located in the Laniakea supercluster, and apparently it's all headed toward the region known as the Shapley Attractor. This is a part of space that already has a large number of galaxies clustered together. It's really a one-sided game of cosmic tug-of-war, with the dipole repeller pushing our galaxy and the Shapley Attractor pulling us toward it. So basically, the Milky Way is hurtling through space toward a really crowded part of town, but it's going to take a really long time to get there. It's a pretty big discovery, as gaining a better understanding of the dipole repeller will give us a better idea of how the universe works.
So there you have it. NASA is once again throwing out big numbers, big words, and big bags of bullshit. This is all nonsensical. Why the big change all of a sudden? Now suddenly we're going back to the moon. Now people are going to come on and leave comments because they've been brainwashed by NASA for years. Well, guess what? So wasn't I. I was a firm believer in everything until I started looking at NASA's own words. Pretty soon we'll be able to leave low Earth orbit. They've said it numerous times, and ODD captured it perfectly. Let's take a look at another little farcical thing that NASA has brought to us before. Ubiquitous space elevator. This is a NASA animation. According to NASA, using carbon fiber and other ultralight, super strong things, they're going to build an elevator to the International Space Station that's rocketing around us at allegedly 17,000 miles an hour. They're going to build a ladder to it. Come on. Let's all remember what NASA claims is happening with our sun, moon, stars, and our universe in general, shall we? The speeds and the motions that the Earth, the moon, the sun, and everything are actually moving at is staggering. When you put everything together, we're allegedly moving at millions of miles per hour, yet everything is perfectly still, and somehow an invisible force that's never been proven. Gravity is simply a theory, much like the Big Bang Theory and everything else that they write down. That was a theory and is now fact. But somehow on this incredibly fast-moving juggernaut, NASA is going to build an elevator that goes straight up and down from here to the space station or to the moon. Absolutely ridiculous. Now, why do I think NASA is such an evil corporation? Well, you got to look at its roots. It was started up by Nazis and occultists, and that is a fact, period. Let's look at this. Now, if you've watched my channel for any length of time, you've already seen videos I put out about Jack Parsons, L. Ron Hubbard, and Aleister Crowley all engaging in an activity called Babylon Working, where they allegedly did a sex magic ritual and tore a small hole in the fabric of the universe at Area 51, where allegedly an entity flew in. And ever since then, in 1946, we've been inundated with UFO, mysterious lights in the sky, so on and so forth, ever since, not to mention the Roswell crash. But Jack Parsons, L. Ron Hubbard, and Aleister Crowley were indispensable in starting up NASA and starting up jet propulsion, but they weren't the only ones. Again, Operation Paperclip, where they took the top Nazi scientists in rockets and brought them to America, cleared their history. Nobody got charged for any of their horrific alleged war crimes, and they all found a home here. It's funny that NASA and Nazi are so similar. And it's also funny that if you look at the NASA logo, it is the word Satan. Look at the red T that actually looks like a snake's tongue. But the entire history of this place is shady, and it always has been. And it appears that once again, NASA is going to try to trick humanity, change the subject, go from their farcical story of going to Mars to going back to the moon. At any rate, I'll leave links in the description. There's plenty more where this came. Richie from Boston, I am out.